If you can make it through them phones, if you can survive the phones, I would put my money on it that you can probably survive anywhere in IT. Welcome to Debt Free in IT. I'm your host, Mike. This podcast is for anyone who's looking to get into the IT industry, whether it's for a career change or you're just interested. I think you come to the right place. In today's episode, we're looking at the help desk technician and the data center technician role. So which one of these roles would you choose as your first position in IT? If you would, let me know in the comments. So for the most of us, we started out in one of these positions or in a similar role. So for me, I started out as a computer operator, which was basically a data center technician / help desk, because we looked after the data center. We did our hourly walkthroughs. We checked for any leaks. We checked for the temperature. We checked to see if there's any servers that had any red lights. We ran backups, but also we took help desk calls. So usually this is one of the roles that most people tend to start at, either a data center type role or maybe a help desk type role. But then from these roles, you start to learn that organization. You start to learn the IT infrastructure. So for me, that's when I first started learning how the IT infrastructure worked. I first started learning the different departments and all of that, which helped me out through my whole career, if I may say. But usually after these roles, this is when you start to realize that, okay, what path you see yourself going down or which technology you want to specialize in. So today, we're going to compare some of the daily activities in these two positions, also some of the skills and certifications you may need to get one of these positions, or someone who has this position may already have, and also some of the pros and cons of these two positions. So the first thing I want to look at is the daily activities in this data center technician role. So the main thing to know is, the first thing is a data center technician at organization A and a data center technician at organization B. Sometimes their roles can be totally different, but they will have some similarities. So some of the similarities or some of the roles or some of the responsibilities someone in this position may have, like you hear me stated earlier, maintaining the data center. So this is going to be checking for leaks, checking on equipment. Usually you'll have some kind of checklist that you may be going by, or some kind of log sheet that you're keeping up with, where it may be that you have to do a walkthrough of your data center every hour. It may be that you got to do a walkthrough every 30, 45 minutes. But this is a way to make sure that there's nothing going on that should be fixed in that data center. So you're going to walk through, you're going to be checking the temps, because in most data centers, usually you have to have it pretty cold in the data center. So, because like I said, if it's hot, a lot of times if you have some physical servers there, a lot of physical equipment, they're throwing off heat also. So one of the first things that's going to happen is those pieces of equipment is going to start to shut themselves down. So mainly you're checking on the temps, any kind of water leaks or anything like that you may see, any kind of leaks or anything you need to report, and also any kind of equipment issues. So you're the ones that's walking through, and this is almost like a secondary of fail safe, because usually the server admin may be getting an alert of an issue on the system, but let's just say that they might not have caught their email. So by you going through doing these walkthroughs too, you may possibly see a red light or amber light on one of the servers. And then that way you can report it to the server team that, hey, this server, such and such name, has this issue or has this light going on. That way it's kind of like a fail safe. If one person don't catch it, usually the other person may catch it. So in this position, you're going to be doing some of that. Also, you're going to be monitoring a lot of systems. So usually in the data center, this is where any systems that your organizations may have, you're going to be doing a lot of monitoring on those systems. So you're going to be looking at a lot of, you may have some kind of software that shows all your systems, shows if they're up or if they're having any kind of issues. So basically you're monitoring systems. And then also some data center positions, you may be in a data center position at a MSP, a managed service provider. So there you're going to be monitoring a lot of your client systems. So any clients that you may have or that company may have, you may be doing some monitoring on their systems just to make sure there's nothing going on with their systems either. So you're going to be checking temps, checking on the equipment, monitoring different systems. And then, like I said, some positions, the one I had, we didn't really do this, but in some organizations, you may also be the one that's doing the racking and stacking. By racking and stacking, I mean that when a physical server comes in and it needs to be installed in one of the racks, it may be the job of the data center technician to install that piece of equipment and get it up on the network and operational. That way the server admin can remote in, or if it's a networking piece of equipment, the network engineer or the network admin, they can reach out, get to their equipment, and then configure it however they want it to. But you may be the one that's doing that physical work where you're putting that server in, you're putting it in the rack, you're doing everything, getting it connected, you're doing the cabling. So some positions, the data center technician would do this, have this responsibility also. Or that data center technician could be hands off, where the different departments may rack and stack their own equipment, where if you're on the server team and you need to install a server, you're installing that server yourself. If you're on the networking team, you need to install a router or a switch, you're going down and you're installing that yourself. So there's many hats that this data center position could wear. Another thing that you may be doing in the data center is, let's just say if it's night shift and an issue comes up with one of the servers. So this may be where you reach out to whoever's on call. You reach out to them, let them know that there's an issue going on, and they may try to remote in, or if it's virtual, then they're automatically going to be able to get to it. But let's just say, for this example, it's physical, and they're not able to get access to it. Maybe something going on with the server. It may have blue screen or something like that. So in this data center technician role, you could be the one that's going, locating that server in the data center, and then you're the one that's doing the rebooting, things like that, getting it up and operational so that that server admin or that server engineer can gain access to it. So like I said, this data center technician, they are a kind of like a jack of all trades, where you're kind of like you may not master anything, but you're real familiar with a lot of things, especially within that data center. Moving on to the next role, the help desk technician role. So some of the things that this help desk technician may be doing on a daily basis, and pretty much this is all across the board, anywhere that's help desk or anything like that, 9 times out of 10, you're going to be doing end user support, which means that you're going to be on those phones. So you're going to be talking on the phones. You're going to be taking calls. You're going to be you may be just taking inbound calls, where you're taking calls from people that's calling in with issues, or you may have to sometimes make a call outbound. So making a call to someone if you're following up on the issue. But 9 times out of 10 at this help desk role, you're going to be on those phones. And then another thing they're going to be doing is, or they will be doing, is responding to or creating tickets. So someone contacts the help desk. The help desk is the first person, the first line of defense. They're talking to the help desk. The help desk hears their issue. Then the help desk may figure out that, oh, we need to move this up to server team. We need to move this up to our development team. We need to move this to our networking team. So that help desk person, they're going to be the one that's creating that ticket, putting in all the useful information for the next person who they send that ticket to, or the next group that they send that ticket to. So at this help desk role, like I said, you're going to be creating the tickets. Then also, you're going to be setting up user accounts. So a lot of times the help desk is usually the ones that set up the new users. So when you got hired, it was probably someone on the help desk that created your account for you to log into everything. And so the help desk usually create the accounts. Then also you'll be doing some remote troubleshooting. So this is where the help desk, if there's an issue that you can resolve, 9 times out of 10, if it's in your network or in your organization, let's say you're doing in-house support, 9 times out of 10, you're going to have some sort of remote control application on your PC where you're able to remote to that user's PC and pretty much see what that user is doing or see what issue they have. That way you may be able to solve it yourself. Then you ain't really got to create a ticket, because you can just close the ticket. Or if you decide that, oh, this issue here you still couldn't fix, then you got to escalate the ticket up to the next level. So at this help desk position, like I said, it's one of the positions where also, like I said, everybody goes through it. I like to say this is probably most IT folks' rites of passage, because if you can make it through them phones, if you can survive the phones, I would put my money on it that you can probably survive anywhere in IT if you can get off those phones. The phones, like that was the killer to me. Like I said, you hear me say it in a lot of videos. When I was on them phones, I was ready to quit, man. Like, yo, I hated it. I hated driving there. I hated leaving there. I hated coming there. I hated everything. When I was on those phones, like I said, the phones is a different animal. You got to get used to those phones. But usually the phones is everyone's first position because, like I said, you can make it through those phones. You can make it anywhere. And then next, we're going to move on to some skills and certifications that someone may have or someone may need to obtain at these particular roles. So looking at the data center technician. So at this role, you're going to need to know some basic networking. You know, some basic networking. You may even need to know some basic network configurations. So if you're in a data center and you're working for an MSP, it may be one of your duties to put the basic config on a device for the network engineer to get access to it. So you may need to know some basic configurations, but everyone needs to know some basic networking, just because I think networking will help you out along your job. Because a lot of times, if it's a networking issue, if you can spot it out, it may be an issue that you don't have to send up. It's something that you're able to fix yourself. So some basic networking. And then also, like I said, sometimes in the data center, you're going to need some cabling skills, or this is something that I think that is real valuable, because a lot of times, believe it or not, with most of us working on virtual equipment all the time, sometimes you never had the chance to really cable up any real equipment. So you're so used to the virtual that when you're looking at the piece of equipment and it's right there in front of you, you don't realize how to cable it up. Where, you know, to some folks it seems easy, some folks it seems hard. I done seen it come both ways. I done seen like different people, it affects them differently. So for me, I always looked at it as if just like connecting the dots, where most of the time you got a label. So we're putting it in port 01 on this device, and I need to go to port 05 on this other device. So usually to me it's straightforward. But like I said, if you've never seen a real piece of equipment and you never had to cable it up, or let's say that you're going from a role where you was doing everything remote, you was able to remote into everything, to now you're on a role where you get a new networking device, a new router, a new switch, and you got to go put it in the data center yourself and then cable it up. That can be a learning curve there, because it takes some getting used to. You know, it's one of the things that you have to do it often. And then on top of that, a lot of times you need to make the cabling neat. You know, that was always my downfall. I could cable it up, but making that thing neat, I did my best. But hey, I probably got a C on that. But like I said, cabling it up is something that just comes with practice. Trust me, once you get in this role and you cable up different pieces of equipment, you'll become a master at cabling. And then sometimes too, believe it or not, sometimes when you get the cabling, especially if you're cabling up a lot of a piece of equipment, or let's say you're cleaning up some cabling, a lot of times it starts to become somewhat therapeutic. So at least that's what I hear. Never became therapeutic to me, but I do know some people that, you know, it's kind of therapeutic. So like I said, cabling, it's a skill that this person may need as a data center technician. So then moving on to some certifications that someone may have at this position. So usually you'll see a lot of fundamental certifications. Like by fundamental, I mean something like the Network Plus, you know, making sure you got a general understanding of networking. The A Plus, making sure you got a general understanding of the computer hardware. And then also you will see some of these roles, especially if you're in a data center where you're managing a lot of networking equipment, or maybe you're the MSP and they're supporting a lot of people for networking or something of that aspect. Then you may see a CCNA being asked that someone has. So, but at this role here, it's one of the roles that a lot of times I feel like if you have a good IT background, and let's say you do pretty good on the interview and you're real ambitious, I think a lot of times this is probably one of the roles where even if you didn't have no certification, but a lot of times that manager see where you're going in that direction. A lot of times I think they will cut you a break and give you a chance at this role. So like I said, it's one of those roles that you can get into and kind of learn the foundation. If you're doing it in-house at an organization, you can learn how that organization is structured. And then also you get a little bit of hands-on with a lot of the equipment that that organization may use. And then with the help desk technician role, so at this role, you also would need to know some basic networking. Like I said, knowing basic networking helps to fix all kind of issues without you having to route it to the networking team. You know, knowing things like how to access a router, basic troubleshooting, things like that. So how to troubleshoot a networking issue. So being able to look at a PC and being able to tell that, okay, this PC has done pulled the wrong address or something to that nature. And then also at the help desk role, you will be on the OS a lot. So you will need to know some basic Windows commands, know how to bring up your command prompt. You especially going to need to know ping to test connectivity, things like that. Understand some basic Linux. If your organization supports a lot of Linux PCs, then you're going to need to understand that too. Like I said, Windows is probably what you're going to see the most. And then maybe some Mac OS. So some places, they will have a couple folks there using the Mac. So you may need to know a little your way around that Mac a little bit. This is all is going to depend on the organization. And then also at this help desk technician role, one of the things that could probably get you this job without having no certs before we get to the certification part is good customer service skills. So at this role here, you're the first line of defense, I like to call it, but you're the first person that someone on the outside calls and gets to. So if you got good customer service skills, a lot of times you may be able to land this role without having any certifications at all, because that good customer service skills goes a long way. So if you got good customer service skills, that can't really be taught. So, like you can get marked on a lot of times. You can get marks against you and end up, try to improve your customer service skills. But if you got it from the jump, like I said, that's always a plus in that category, because in this role, you're talking to a lot of people. So some places, I think they'll give you a chance if you got good customer service skills, but you ain't got the IT background, because they know that IT part, you can learn that. But it's hard to learn that good customer service skills. So good customer service skills is always a plus for this position. And then also some of the entry-level certs is some of the same, like the A+, the Network Plus, of course, the CCNA, anything along that nature. And then sometimes, too, even going back to the data center position, sometimes, let's say that you're striving for a server admin, and let's say that you go out and get a VMware cert or something of that nature. So a lot of times, that cert could also help you land one of these roles, because, like you hear me mention before, a lot of times some places may look at your resume and say that, okay, you got this certification, but you don't got no real production environment experience. So they may start you out at one of these lower roles, and you may not even be there long. I've seen some people there in a couple months, some people there for 6 months and move on up. So you may get started at this role. That way you get the feel for that production environment. And then a couple months later, you move on up to where you were trying to go. So a lot of times a higher level cert could definitely get one of these roles. But like I said, some of those basic entry level certs like an A+, Network Plus, things along those lines will also help out with this position. Sorry to interrupt this episode, but I wanted to let everyone know about my weekly newsletter, The Log Files. So this is a weekly newsletter to help you start your IT career with practical advice and tips, powered by yours truly. So it's launched. It's already launched. We launched it at the beginning of January. It's packed with actionable advice, resources, and insights to kickstart your IT journey. So don't miss out. Link will be in the description, and back to the episode. So next, I want to look at some of the pros and cons of these two positions. So first, I want to start out with the help desk with some of the pros. So some of the pros to this position, I think, is you get exposure to a lot of issues. So you get exposure to a lot of things. So if you're in an in-house environment where y'all got a lot of pieces of software that y'all supporting, you got hardware that you're supporting, a lot of times the help desk is going to be the first person to see these issues. So you see a whole lot of different issues. So that makes you more comfortable, because you're going out helping, trying to fix these issues. So, because a lot of times it may be an issue where someone from a higher team may tell you how to fix it. Like say, hey, this is how you fix this particular issue. Or you may have a knowledge base that shows you how to go in and fix that issue. But you're getting your hands on a lot of pieces of software where you're troubleshooting it and you're fixing it, and also you're getting your hands dirty with a little bit of hardware. So, like I said, you're exposed to a lot of things. So I think this is good. I think this is one of the things that probably helped me out, especially if you're at an organization for a long time. Because by the time I started in computer ops, went through help desk, went through desktop, I had done seen all avenues of our organization. So I done saw the software that we was dealing with. I've done troubleshooted that software. And then I went to where I'm troubleshooting the hardware that we're installing this software on. So then by the time I got to networking, I pretty much knew the environment. Like I said, I still had to learn the networking environment, but I pretty much knew my way around the organization around that time. So I think that helped out because I was able to spot issues where if someone sent us a ticket, I could clearly spot out that, oh, this is a desktop issue where they need to go in and fix this. So starting at that help desk helped me out along the way. And then also one of the pros to this help desk position is that usually this help desk position, a lot of times this help desk position will be a little bit easier to get. You know what I'm saying? It's not a hard position to get. Like I said, usually what makes it hard to get is that there's usually a lot of people applying to it. So especially depending on the area you're in. So, like I said, this help desk position, you probably could get it without no certifications at all. Just that you may have some schooling in your background, or you may be currently enrolled in school. But like I said, this job, I think it's a little bit easier to get than one of the higher level jobs. So like I said, that's one of the pros to it. And then another pro, can't forget this, is usually in this help desk position, you're not on call. So you're not on call, which means that when you leave at 4 or 5 o'clock, you're off. You don't have to worry about, oh, I might get called at 12 o'clock tonight. I might get called at 3 o'clock tonight. When you leave this position, you're usually off. So like I said, no on call, which I think is a plus for this position also. And then some of the cons to this position is, one of the main cons is, like I said earlier, you're on those phones. So you're mainly on the phones, which means that you're talking to a lot of people every day. Some help desk places, I've seen them take 80 to 100 calls a day. I've seen usually within that range. I've seen some maybe take a little bit more if you're getting little small issues or something like that. But sometimes you may end up on the phone with someone for 20, 30 minutes just trying to fix an issue. So you're mainly on the phones a lot, which means a lot of people know your voice but never know what you look like. So like I said, that's one of the cons to it. Another con is sometimes it may be less hands-on, because if you're just taking calls and you're just creating tickets, you may not be able to get out and put your hands on a lot of pieces of equipment where that you can go in and troubleshoot or try to fix yourself. You may be able to get out sometimes, but a lot of times, most of the issues, you're going to be creating that ticket, sending it up to the team to fix it. So, and then my last con here is that it's easy to get in your comfort zone here and get stuck here. So you don't want to be that person that, unless you just want to, but usually you don't want to be at this help desk for 30 years, saying you don't want to be there for that long. Usually you want to upskill to somewhere else. You may want to go into networking, you may want to go into server, but this is one position where if you don't catch yourself, you will get stuck here. That's one of the things that happened to me. I don't say I got stuck there, but I was in my help desk / computer ops, which it was about the same because both of them, you're on the phones. So I was in that position for roughly about 5 years all together. So roughly about 5 years, I would say. So it's one of the things where you could get comfortable, you get comfortable within the job, and you just, you just stay there. You're used to coming in, taking the phone calls, and that's it. You may like the fact that you're not on call. So that's one plus. But like I said, this position, once you get it, the goal is to figure out which way you want to pivot, what you want to specialize on, and start coming up with a plan to get to that destination. Whether that plan be, studying for some certifications to get me there, or that plan could be letting the supervisor in that department know that I'm interested in getting there. But you got to have something that's going to drive you and motivate you to get up out of this help desk and move on to that next position. And then moving on to the data center. So some of the pros about the data center technician position in my eyes is, first of all, you get that hands-on experience. So in this data center, like I say, if you're working in one of the data centers where you're doing a lot of racking and stacking, you're doing a lot of cabling, then like I said, this here can give you a lot of hands-on experience where you're getting pretty familiar with some things. You may not be familiar with everything, but like I said, it's not nothing new to you. So you're getting a little bit of hands-on experience. You may be doing a little bit more troubleshooting than what that help desk technician may be doing. So like I said, this is a pro in my book. Another pro is that this path, the data center technician, I think it's a path which it makes it easier to go to a higher role, because let's say if you're in a data center and you're already supporting a lot of networking equipment, a lot of networking devices, you're helping out the network team all the time. So this could be something that leads to you being a network engineer or network admin. So by you're working with the network team, you're probably familiar with their process. And then the only thing you need to do is, if they require you to get a CCNA, you need to go out and get that CCNA, and then you can go ahead and move to that position whenever something comes available. So I think it gives you an easier path to move up rather than the help desk. Because usually the help desk, you still have to get that CCNA and things like that if you want to go to networking. But I think it's usually less friction if you already been dealing with some aspect of networking by doing a lot of racking and stacking on some of the networking equipment, which means that you're familiar with that process, which is a plus in networking. Because like I said, a lot of people coming up, the easiest thing to use is virtual equipment, where we lab up on virtual and things like that. You may be labbing up on packet tracer. So when you get that experience of cabling real equipment, it may make it easier to move to that higher role. And then my last pro for this position is that it's less customer interaction. So unlike the help desk where you're constantly talking to people, usually in this data center position, you're usually not talking to no one except for maybe whoever you're working with or something like that. You're not really talking to a lot of customers. So that is one pro to this position also. So moving on to some cons from this data center technician position. So one of the first cons is it may require some heavy lifting. So like I said, especially if you're doing some racking and stacking, which means that some of those servers are heavy. And I'm not saying heavy, but it's heavy. You know, some of those servers, you may need more than one person to rack and stack those things. So a lot of times you might be doing a lot of heavy lifting. You might be doing a lot of moving of different pieces of equipment. So it could be something that is real demanding in a physical aspect. And then another con is sometimes in this data center, ain't no such thing as the data center closing down and nobody being there. So which means that this data center is probably running all 3 shifts. Somebody has to be there 24/7. So which means that if you're someone that prefers first shift, no weekends, things like that, this data center technician job may not be for you unless you can find one that's a first shift 9 to 5 or something like that. But more than likely, they're running all 3 shifts. So this data center role, data centers do not close. So they're open 24/7, which means that someone has to be there not 21/7, but 24/7. So someone, you could end up going for this position and end up on a shift you don't like third shift. So third shift, so some people may like it. I didn't like it. At first I liked it until I did it for so long, and trust me, third shift, my health was all messed up on third shift. So I think the only thing I did on first shift was drink real tall sodas to try to stay up. So like I said, this could be one of the cons that you may not be able to work with. And then my last con is that sometimes this job could get repetitive. So if you're somewhere and you're in this position and you're not doing a lot of things, let's say you're mainly just monitoring, running backups, you know, you might have to connect something here and there, might have to reboot something here and there. After a while, you're probably going to get tired of it because you're doing the same thing over and over again. You already know the job like the back of your hand. There's really no excitement. So sometimes, like I said, this job, it could get repetitive. It just depends on the organization you're at, because you could be at an organization where that thing is, where it's on fire. You know, it's on fire every night, something different. And that's good and bad. It's good that you're getting the experience, but it's bad because you may be constantly going. So you could burn out that aspect too. But like I said, one thing with this job is you're probably going to do a lot of repetitive tasks. So in my eyes, I think both of these positions, the help desk technician and the data center technician, can be good starting points for a lot of IT professionals. And like I said, it was a good starting point for a lot of IT professionals because, like I said, most of us started out in some kind of role similar to this, and then we worked our way up. So me, like I stated earlier, I started out computer ops, worked my way at the help desk, then went to desktop, then went to networking. Where a lot of people, like I said, they start out in one of these positions and then start to pivot towards whatever they're trying to specialize in. So I think both of these positions are good starting points. The main thing is once you get this position is to have an end game, have a plan. You know, I went in there like a boxer. I ain't have no plan. I got hit, still didn't have no plan. So I went the slow route. But like I'm saying, for you or someone getting into it, have that end game plan where you're knowing that, okay, I want to end up in cybersecurity. I want to end up in networking. I want to end up in server. Have that game plan. And when you get that position, soak up everything you can and follow your game plan until you get to your destination. Hopefully you found some value in this episode. If you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. If you're on Instagram, TikTok, or Facebook, you can follow me at debtfreeinit. If you have any questions, you can email me at debtfreeinit@gmail.com, or you can visit the website debtfreeinitwithmike.com. Other than that, I'll see you next week. Peace.